In Eatonville, memories of musical icons and plans to restore Club Eaton. You're listening to The Wrap from Central Florida Public Media. I'm Brendan Byrne. James Brown, Fats Domino, and so many other African-American musical icons performed in Eatonville at Club Eaton during the 50s and 60s. Now the town and the current owner are restoring it with the help of a state grant.
This club here represents the past of all black communities that had such an enormous wealth of entertainment that we were trying to create in our own communities.
We'll hear more from former patrons of Club Eaton. That's ahead on The Wrap. The big stories this week from Central Florida Public Media. But first, these news headlines. Volusia County Council is delaying a scheduled discussion about a possible countywide building moratorium, in part due to flooding. Now that discussion will happen sometime in the next 60 days instead. As Central Florida Public Media's environment reporter Molly Derg reports, the shift at Tuesday night's council meeting gives county staff more time to gather information for members to consider.
For dozens of Volusians who showed up Tuesday night to speak on the potential moratorium, it's just another kick of the can down the road. Residents shared personal stories of flooding exacerbated by nearby development projects and say it's long past time for council to have heard their concerns and be ready to start taking action. But Volusia District 3 Representative Danny Robbins says for a productive discussion, council must first have information.
We don't have that right now to make any sort of discussion and to be buffaloed into a vote or some sort of action item. I believe at this point it would be juvenile.
Robbins says he supports one resident's suggestion to gather more parcel data, like parcels in the county that are currently protected or under development already. Chairman Jeff Brower says all that information could have been addressed in Tuesday night's discussion had council not voted to move it back. Molly Derg, Central Florida Public Media.
Florida's agriculture industry suffered tremendous losses from Hurricane Helene, according to a new report. WUSF's Mahika Cookday reports on the damages to farm production statewide.
Florida's agricultural losses from Hurricane Helene are at least $40 million and could go as high as $162 million. That's according to a report from the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. Institute Director Krista Court says some types of land were affected worse than others.
There's nearly 6.1 million acres, most of that being that grazing land that goes into the animals and animal products category, but a significant amount of field and row crops as well.
About 18,000 acres of agricultural areas experienced what the report called high-intensity weather conditions. Court says that some farmers may have avoided additional devastating losses from Helene, but only because they had not yet replanted after Debbie hit just 8 weeks before. I'm Mahika Cookday in Tampa.
Florida education leaders want parents to be reminded annually that they can face consequences if their children report false threats of violence. The State Board of Education approved a rule change that will require school districts to make training available to parents and guardians on the use of Fortify FL, an app where anonymous tips can be submitted about suspicious activities. Students already receive such training. More local news on our website. Visit cfpublic.org. It's open enrollment season for the Affordable Care Act health insurance marketplace, and 4 out of 5 Floridians eligible for plans on the health insurance marketplace could find plans for as low as $10 per month. But that doesn't mean everyone signing up for coverage is paying that price. A look at the cost of health care and how to make plans work for you, visit our website, cfpublic.org. The historic town of Eatonville and the current owner of a dilapidated structure at 426 East Kennedy Boulevard are bringing back a treasured piece of Central Florida's music history, Club Eaton. The restoration efforts, funded with the help of a major state grant, rely in part on the recollections of former patrons. Central Florida Public Media's Joe Burns has this story.
Just you and me. James Brown was the headliner.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to go and see Mr. James Brown.
That's Jane Turner, who saw James Brown at Club Eaton in the early 1960s.
This was the highlight of my life. I'd heard about James Brown. Of course, he wasn't on the TV, or anything like that, but I'd heard about him. And boy, my goodness. My goodness, it was a treat.
I feel so good. Being a church girl, my mother didn't allow us to go to the club. But when I was old enough, all I wanted to do was dance. My mother didn't want us to dance. And I would dance from the time I get in until about 2. Wow. I didn't drink and I didn't smoke. All I wanted to do was dance. And I love dancing today.
That's 81-year-old Martha Bryant Hall. In late October, the women were at St. Lawrence AME Church in Eatonville with a few dozen other people sharing their memories of the club. Bryant Hall says she was thrilled to see artists like Brown and Fats Domino and Little Richard.
Tears would just come down your eyes because you are just so excited and knowing that you had the opportunity to meet these singers.
Club Eaton was a special place, an elegant place. You wore your Sunday best and you felt safe there. It was built by Condor Merritt, a prominent black landowner and businessman, by some accounts in 1946. It was part of the Chitlin Circuit, a network of black-owned venues where African-American artists could perform during the days of segregation. Today, the building is a shell of its former self. The roof collapsed and had to be removed, and the block walls are supported now by wooden braces. Standing here, architect Malcolm Jones says that over the years it changed hands, changed names, and went through major remodeling. As Club Koha, it closed in 2008 and gradually fell to pieces.
If you've seen any movie with zombies in it, unfortunately it resembled the set of any of those movies.
The town of Eatonville and David Barani, the current owner, are working with a $1 million state historic preservation grant to restore the club. Some funds had to be used for the emergency demolition, but Jones says it uncovered a row of diamond windows. Features like that are the kind of historical details he's trying to track down through interviews and old photos.
And our entire job and hope is to restore this back to its former glory as much as we possibly can.
Barani says the restored club will be a live music venue and community event center and will conform to today's standards.
But as far as the overall venue and the ambiance, it should be a magical space that takes people back to that particular era.
Back at the church, Charles McKinney says he would watch shows as a teenager through an exhaust fan in the club's back wall. His mom, now 95, worked there as a waitress and would do the artist's hair. He dreams of showing her Club Eaton again when it's restored.
The day is coming when everybody will say, look what's here now based on what used to be.
Yeah. You know when the lights are low.
Joe Burns, Central Florida Public Media.
That's it for the wrap this week. This podcast is produced by Central Florida Public Media with assistance from News Director LaToya Dennis and Digital Director Ryan Ellison. Editing assistance this week from Joe Mario Pedersen. I'm Brendan Byrne. This is The Wrap.